Hello and welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to look at a few newspaper articles and discuss about how COVID has changed the big cities and versus smaller cities. The reason I kind of want to make this episode is for a few reasons. Firstly, we are start seeing some places start taking a much bigger toll due to COVID, and there are some places that's been recovering quite well through this, right? So it's kind of at a point where we should kind of reflect back and take some anecdotal stories and take some sort of statistical numbers and see if we can make sense of what is actually happening here. I'll start with this article here. I saw this one news article in the Daily Mails talking about if you love life, you should leave London, right? Just leave the big cities. Talking about why does COVID would actually kill the big city dreams. It started off with a story that one guy who come from a small city, and he arrived in the US and in New York, and he tried to ask for a direction. It's like, where is the Central Park? The guy didn't even look at him, just said, get a F map, buddy. And that kind of just shows the attitude, right, in big cities versus small cities. And because of that, in a bigger city, people kind of are less connected to each other. It kind of doesn't have that small city or small town kind of feel where people tend to be a little bit more caring towards each other. And that makes the COVID-19 kind of impact a lot stronger, like as this demonstrated by this article, that this COVID pandemic is not just destroying life, it's actually changing the way we live. And it seems like the bigger cities are struggling a lot more, both in terms of controlling it, compared to the impact that's been having. And as this COVID pandemic swipes through, a lot of works are being done remotely. This includes universities start encouraging remote teaching to technology companies. In this case, as illustrated using the Facebook example, where Mark Zuckerberg start to wanting to have half of his staff to work from home in the next few years, certainly less than 10 years. And he would like to kind of fundamentally change this culture. And in fact, there are already some tech companies that are already start doing this transition towards remote work. And when a big city, the rent double or even triple the cost compared to a small city, you can certainly start saying people would move away from big cities and into the smaller cities. And this kind of a saying, right? There's a possibility where the digital revolution, right? The fact we can communicate through video conference, emails, videos, social media, and so on, it actually reduces the need to be physically together to collaborate and to generate economy of scale. And this digital revolution could, in theory, that to kind of remove the effect of concentrating people together due to the industrial revolution here. And additionally, one of the big drawcard of large cities, London, is they have a very active social life, where in a small city, the bars might close at 10 o'clock or midnight, or there are limited social activities, or only have certain social activity at a particular time. But in the current lockdown, those social activities in big cities like London, New York, even in Melbourne, currently they're kind of just being reduced and sometimes just eliminated altogether. This kind of removes a lot of the lusters big city has. And in fact, a lot of rich and wealthy people start escaping to the countryside. Right? And in the US, things are a lot more serious. So in Florida, there are hospitals where the ICU beds, the intensive care unit beds, are in severe shortage as the state passed over 300,000 COVID cases. And with 70,000 cases just kind of recently logged in last week. And this kind of, so if the number kind of doesn't drive away the serious situation, this picture of people lining up in cars to get tested really paints a picture, like a serious picture, like big cities are having trouble facing a lot of these issues. One of the major big cities that I've been to myself a few times is Singapore. It's considered both an economic hub and a center for banking, services, tourism, luxury goods, and many more. However, this COVID pandemic is severely impacting Singapore in terms of the economy. In the last quarter alone, the GDP has dropped by 41%. So that's in the second quarter of 2020. And why is that? And I did had a quick look. The figure for GDP in New Zealand only dropped 1.6%. That's a big difference between 41% for Singapore and 1.6% for New Zealand. And one big reason, as noted by this newspaper article, is due to major cities such as Singapore had a strong reliance on trade, right? They are a hub, they're a center. So when the trade slows, the economy tanks, right? That's a major thing. And secondly, countries like Singapore and Hong Kong, they also have a big social inequality issue as well, where they would rely much more heavily on, say, migrant workers, where they only get paid maybe 1/5 or 1/10 of what a typical worker in their country will get paid. And this creates a big problem in the sense that when a pandemic comes through, those people are often very vulnerable, and they could become like a reservoir for COVID cases, and that kind of creates problems for that region as a whole, because COVID, as we can tell, are not kind of how should we put this? They're not discriminate in terms of race or gender, so on, right? So that kind of makes it a lot more difficult to totally eradicate the disease in that region. And secondly, by having the less fortunate group of people who are more likely to get infected with COVID, it also removes the potential the usage of those kind of labor in the economy, and that would further kind of impact on the economy there. So taking things back to New Zealand, and recently there are anecdotal stories about buyers are bidding higher to buy a property here. And the way I look at it is not surprising because interest rates are at the lowest it could be. The unemployment rate is not as bad as what economists are previously predicting. And additionally, people has been saving more because they can't go taking an overseas holiday anymore. And they are kind of just saving more money here. And if for people who have had a look at some of the auction events, after the lockdown, where New Zealand have removed all the COVID cases inside the country, that's outside of kind of managed isolation places when new people come in from outside the country, because they have removed all those COVID cases through the 1 month lockdown. Right now, the economy kind of bounced back. People are becoming confident in spending, creating jobs. And yeah, the auction venues are packed to the rafters, basically. And people seem to be confident buying again. One set of numbers that's often quite important to have a look is the National Stock Index. So this is the Straits Times Index, which is a leading stock index in Singapore. It's denoted in Singaporean dollars. The number I'm kind of interested in is which level is the Singapore Stock Exchange at the beginning of the year, 2nd of January, and what's the current level now. So at the beginning of the year, they're about 3,250 points, and now they're at 2,650 points. This is a drop of around 20%. However, if you look at Australia, their leading indices is the ASX 200. So you can see at the beginning of the year, they're at 6,690, and now they're at 6,050. This is a drop of only 10%. This kind of market is saying the impact in Australia due to COVID to the overall economy is only about half as severe compared to Singapore. However, if you look at New Zealand, at the beginning of the year, it's at 11,600, and now it is at 11,600. This is like the market saying currently the impact of COVID has been removed compared to the beginning of the year with the current monetary policies. So because everywhere they're reducing the interest rates, they're doing quantitative easing, they're buying government bonds and so on. So it's saying the stock market is saying with all the measures that's been taken, the effect of COVID has been removed in the pricing of the share market. Okay, that's kind of all the things I have for today. And if you're kind of interested to learn more about how to invest in shares and so on, I would include a link down below where you can access the cheapest share investment share trading platform if you only have a small amount of money to invest. So let's say if you want to put in a few hundred or few $1,000s every month, this will be the best trading platform to use. And in fact, it's the one I'm currently using. Also, if you want to access to the cheapest power in New Zealand, I'll leave a link down below as well. And lastly, remember to like the video and do subscribe and hit the bell notification button to make sure you're notified. That's all for today. I will talk to you guys next time.